Welcome into the Situation Room. I'm Angus Hout. Good afternoon. No, we're still morning. Good morning. It's a gloomy day here in Winnipeg, so it all feels the same. Well, we got some things to talk about those Winnipeg Jets. We got some Rick Bowness talk. We're going to start off with that. We'll talk a little bit about some defenders, maybe some trades, and we'll also just talk about the unfortunate loss to the Detroit Red Wings. That's got to be one of the weirdest games we've seen in a long while. So let's just kick it off by talking about some Rick Bowness here. So Rick Bowness, pretty good, right? But not good enough to be in the top 4 for early Jack Adams voting candidacy. Like, really, the NHL would release a fancy little infograph on Instagram and Facebook yesterday. I guess the social medias. And they were just like, yeah, that Rick Bowness guy, he's not good enough to be in the top 4. In fact, we were only just taking the top team from each of the divisions just to say they're going to be the Jack Adams finalists. They might have done this just to bother Winnipeg fans. So let's go through the top 4 right now. We got Jim Montgomery of the Boston Bruins. He's the by and far away run. Like he's winning with this one. He's going to win. I'm not even going to be upset if Rick Bowness doesn't win, because Jim Montgomery is coaching a pretty good team. So Jim Montgomery, you're probably going to be the Jack Adams winner, without a question of a doubt. Pete DeBoer, he's the second place guy. The Dallas Stars, a team that, snuck into the playoffs and took Calgary to the limits in the first round and is now in the top spot of the Central Division. Listen, I don't want to take anything away from Pete DeBoer and what he's done with this team. He's turned a pretty meh team into a pretty good team. But you know who also has done that and has done it with even more scrutiny and even more noise? Rick Bowness. He has found the pulse of this team. Remember when the penalty kill was like at 50% last year? Awful. Just awful. Haven't seen that out of Rick Bowness. Jets have only lost one overtime game, and they haven't even gone to a shootout. Yeah, that's right. Jets haven't gone into a shootout yet this year. I mean, the noise around the Jets was extreme. It was loud, and like everyone's like, we gotta trade, we gotta get rid of this team. And Rick Bowness, he's the savior of this team. And it's not just him. It's not just Rick Bowness. Let's give as much credit to Rick Bowness as possible. But I think he's just mentored this team, and like he just knows how to get the best out of his guys. I think Brad Lauer's, for the most part, drawing up the X's and O's. Or at least like he's got his hand on this team. Like, we can't forget about him. Scotty Arniel also has his fingerprints all over this team, and Wade Flaherty. Like, the coaching staff as a whole has been magnificent here in Winnipeg. We can't just give it to Bones, but Bones deserves a lot of credit for turning this team around. I mean, taking the captaincy of Blake Wheeler away, that was a bold move, and it worked out. I think Does Rick Bowness deserve Jack Adams? No, but he deserves it more than Pete DeBoer, Bruce Cassidy, and Rod Brendamore. Rod Brendamore, I'm shocked he's on that list. Like, yeah, you got the Canes in first in somewhere in the East Coast. The Atlantic or the Metro. I can't remember how they named those ones. But either way, the Hurricanes are in the top of their division. And it's like, cool, man. You've had a great team with Carolina for the last, 5 years? So whatever, Rod Brendamore, I think you can kind of kick rocks. Bruce Cassidy, you got to take over a team that, when healthy, is a phenom. I don't know if you necessarily need to be there. So I don't know. Jim Montgomery, he can win, but Bowness, he better be at least second. That's where it's at. And I think Jets fans are really just offended that he's not in the top 4, because it proves that obviously the awards are kind of jokey, especially the ones where the writers have to make that happen. Because, if you were smart, you would know that both Lindy Ruff and Bowness have turned their teams around. Yeah, they're second in their division, but they're like amazing from what they were. So maybe the writers should pay attention a little bit more to what's going on in the NHL. Because like, if Lindy Ruff beat out Rick Bowness, I'd have no issue with it. I totally understand. Like, the Devils have just been a middling team for how long? So to get that much out of them, they're basically both coaches are doing the exact same thing. And whatever. My bet is it should be not my bet. My gut tells me that it should be Jim Montgomery, Lindy Ruff, and our boy Bones as the top three for Jack Adams' candidacy. Whew, that's a bit of a mouthful there, friends. So yeah. And unfortunately, Rick Bowness not going to the NHL All-Star game either, with the Dallas Stars winning last night and the Jets ultimately losing. Unfortunately, just couldn't happen. And no Bowness at the All-Star game. Do you think he really wants to go 67-year-old Rick Bowness? No, I think he's got other things to do. He's probably trying to think, maybe I should grow out my hair, grow up the mullet for the playoffs. I think that's probably what he's planning for All-Star weekend. He might even go for I don't know what he's does. What do 67-year-old sports coaches do with their time off? I'm sure he's just hanging out with Judy, having a great time. And yeah, I hope they have a fantastic weekend off. Cause like, honestly, I don't blame him for not wanting to go. And it's funny because like Bowness said he doesn't watch it. And the day earlier, good old Tortorella, he's like, hey, I'm loud and I don't like the All-Star game. I think it's a waste of time. And Bowness is like, yeah, I don't really watch that. It's not my thing. And it's just like, it's funny that we vilified Torts so much. And Rick Bowness can say literally the same thing, like pretty much the same thing. I want to go get the two clips. I should have grabbed them for this, but I didn't because I'm a rookie. No, I'm just lazy. I'm not a rookie anymore. I've been at this for a while. I should know better. That's my bad. Either way, Torts, yeah, doesn't like the All-Star game. Rick Bowness doesn't care about the All-Star game. I'm a little bit like, yeah, maybe he told the boys just to have like the most possible fun in a game. And unfortunately, that led to a loss, but he just didn't care about that win or loss. He's like, we got 5 in a row. Fantastic. 6 in a row would be cool, but I don't want to go to the All-Star game. And maybe that's what he told the boys. I doubt that. He would not throw a game. Rick Bowness is too pure for that. Would have been cool to see him go to his first All-Star game though, as a player or a coach. But he said he went as a guy in the farm system. So that's kind of cool that he's got to go before. But yeah, 5 decades in the NHL and still hasn't gone. Come on, dude. Go off. Go to the All-Star game. Enjoy your weekend in Florida. But yeah, unfortunately he won't be going. So yeah, and then we got to look at our defenseman here because there's been a little bit of a rumor from 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Elliot Friedman, he's mentioned that, well, the Philadelphia Flyers, they've got some players that they are willing to trade here. Why? Well, they gotta. They're a bad team. They gotta fix things. Tortorella, he's not having a good time. I think I said Trotz earlier, and I meant Tortorella. Tortorella, he's not having a good time. And well, no one in Philadelphia is. So Kevin Hayes, we don't need to see that experiment in Winnipeg again. We don't really need a James Van Riemsdyk, but there is a guy by the name of Ivan Provorov. Yeah, we got Russian names down. He is looking for a trade. Now, he is a defenseman, and really, he's a defenseman that could thrive under Rick Bowness. He has had some pretty good stats offensively as a defender before. So he is, let's go through this, 6'1", 201 pounds, 25 years old. Through 41 games this season, 2 goals, 12 assists, 14 points. Not bad, not great either. Through his career, 61 goals, 143 assists, 204 points in 491 games. So big Russian, well, not huge Russian, but like, 6-foot Russian who can score goals. In his 2017-18 sophomore season, he played a full 82 games and he scored 17 goals, 24 assists. Merrick from 32 Thoughts, the podcast, thinks that, well, he would be a decent fit in Winnipeg. He could really thrive under the Bone system, but he's got a pretty big contract. It's just shy of $7 million there. So basically, if the Jets were to go get this Ivan Provorov, I'm still butchering it, but go off. He's basically a more expensive Neil Pionk is what I'm getting. $6.75 million. So yeah, you're just getting a more expensive Neil Pionk. Why would you even waste your breath on that? We don't need that. We don't need anyone to come in here and basically replace Neil Pionk as a more expensive Neil Pionk. He might be slightly different than Neil Pionk, but man, like Neil Pionk is kind of bothering me these days. And he's always been like a little bit of a chaotic player. He's always been out there and he does things really well and he does other things really poorly. And it's like either his settings are set to 10 and they're amazing, or they're set to 2 and they're not great. And it's frustrating because like last night he had a puck jump over his stick and he wasn't hauling ass enough down the ice and the Jets got scored on. Brandon Dillon was the guy that was trying to block a pass, and I don't know. I don't know, man. That's so frustrating to watch Neil Pionk do that. And like, but he scores goals and he can shut down players like McDavid. Could we just have that all the time, that he just shuts one guy down for an entire game? And it's just really cool to see. Like maybe he shuts down like the top star every night and Josh Morrissey continues to be a top 3 scorer with the Jets. Please and thank you. Like, yeah, Neil Pionk is like just too chaotic. He's too offensive to be Morrissey's partner, and he's too chaotic to be Brandon Dillon's partner, and you just don't want to put him with young Dylan Samberg. So, yeah, I think just Neil Pionk has played himself out of Winnipeg. Now, I'm not saying you got to replace him with Logan Stanley, but you could also just replace him with Logan Stanley. I'm not saying that is the move, because then you have too many defensive defensemen. You need like one offensive guy and you need one defensive guy on every pair. So I don't know who the Jets would trade for, but the Jets need a guy that can play with Brandon Dillon. And then you have DeMello, Morrissey, Dillon, and whomever. And then you got Schmitty and Samberg. Maybe you just throw Ville Heinola in there. Man, how am I forgetting about that guy? Yeah, you have Ville. Use Ville Heinola. Rookie. Yeah, use your rookies. Use 2 out of your 3 rookies. Why not? Ville Heinola has proved that he can play with the big boys when he's playing on a consistent basis. I don't know why you have Neil Pionk out still. Like it's so frustrating that we still have a guy like Neil Pionk. And it's like it's nice that he's a physical player who gets in there and he just doesn't care. But at the same time, man, we need somebody that's on his game. And if you're going to be paying Neil Pionk $5.8 million for the next 2 years, you might have to move him out. Somebody would love to have a Neil Pionk on their team. And I got to start looking at who would want a Neil Pionk, but somebody's got to take a Neil Pionk because yeah, he's not the fit that he needs to be here. And it's not like we're playing the Oilers anymore on a regular basis anymore. It's like we get them twice a year, and then maybe if things go well, we'll get them in the playoffs. But the Oilers aren't really a playoff team, and they're not a team that's really the Jets have to worry about. I think the Jets would handle the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of the playoffs fine. You just have to bully Kane to the point that he's ineffective and everyone else is going to fall. Ooh, look, Connor McDavid. Yeah, no, Connor McDavid isn't going to get you through for the playoffs. He might get you through a round, and like Jets would be the first round to face, but I just don't think the Oilers are going to be that team this year. So get rid of Neil Pionk. There's no reason to have him around anymore. He's expensive. He's too much of a liability. Makes sloppy plays. And yes, it's cool to see him score, but if you're going to be making that much money, score more and stop having these defensive fumbles. And honestly, when I look at DeMello's and Brennan Dillon's contracts and look at Nate Schmidt and Neil Pionk, honestly, I'd switch those contracts around in a heartbeat, in an instant. I think defensive defensemen do not get enough love. And Brandon Dillon should be out there and he should be earning his 5.9. And I think Neil Pionk should be earning Dillon's 3.2 or 3.6 or whatever it is. Because honestly, I'm more impressed with Brendan Dillon on a regular basis. And defensive defensemen do not get enough love in this league. So give some love to those defensive defensemen. And finally, let's talk about those last 5 games for the Jets. Well, let's talk about the last 6. Let's really talk about Detroit, and then we'll talk about the last 5. There we go. Glad we got that figured out. Yeah, unfortunately, Jets losing to Detroit last night, and that was a weird one. Connor Hellebuck does not allow a sub 750 save percentage. 6 goals on 22 shots. He made 16 saves. And I've got Connor Hellebuck in my fantasy pool. Thank God I forgot to put him in last night because, oh boy, it was rough. So thankfully I forgot to put him in. But yeah, was not a good game for Connor Hellebuck. And really, I think a lot of that, the early issues in the first period were definitely not Connor Hellebuck's fault. But after that, it just every goal was a mistake that led to a goal. You have that Neil Pionk one where it's like, oh, Neil Pionk, come back. I just complained about that. Then you've got the Adam Laurie where he tried to shove it out of the zone and just waffled on the pass. And they're just like, every one of those just was not going their way. Like the Jets just, yeah, the 5-on-3, that was Laurie's goal as well. Or like Laurie's mess up as well. So it's just like, and the rest were calling it a weird game. It was just one of those games that you just kind of got to move on from, because you also got to remember Ville Husso robbed the Jets a couple of times last night, and the post. How many posts do we have? We had like 3 posts. So it was just one of those games where the Jets needed to show up a little bit more, but they also were like good at where they were at. Like, you shouldn't lose to Detroit 7-5, but they're a wily team. They're a crazy team that just like, yeah, we'll show up for some games and we will play, back and forth, and you are going to see your shot. Like, the goals we're going to exchange goals. That's what Detroit does right now. And it's fun to watch them, but it's frustrating when it happens to you because, it's like, oh, cool. We have Ben Sherratt and Andrew Kopp trying to go on a bit of a comeback game, show up to the Jets revenge games. Thankfully, Sam Gagner came in for the revenge game too, getting a goal for the Jets. And I like Sam Gagner. I really hope that, I don't know what I'm doing with that 4th line when Manalainen comes back. Actually, I know what I'm doing with the 3rd line when Manalainen comes back. And that's getting rid of Carson Kuhlman, obviously. I like him, but he doesn't finish, and you got to have finishers. And you know who's a finisher? He's Swedish, so it doesn't work. But Saku Manalainen, he finishes things. He gets goals. He gets into fights. And honestly, I think that the Jets just need that little bit more grit. So Carson Kuhlman, goodbye. Sam Gagner, I hope he sticks around on the 4th line. And it's tough when it's between Stenlund and Gustafsson for your 4th line center, because both of those guys are amazing, and you kind of want to see that all Swedes line put back together again. But at the same time, it's like, well, Sam Gagner is pretty cool. Actually, yeah, I feel so bad for Sam Gagner. I hope that guy doesn't get traded at the deadline, because how many times has he been traded from, playoff contending teams to getting sent off to somewhere like Detroit? Because that's what happened to him the last time he was at Edmonton. He got traded to Detroit for NNCU. Yeah. And that was it. I was heartbroken for Sam Gagner, but it looked like he had fun in Detroit and scored a goal against Detroit. Fantastic. Cole Perfetti, that beautiful pass. Yeah, there's lots to like about the Jets game. They're back 40, amazing. You can't disagree with a game like that. But at the same time, why can't we beat the Detroit Red Wings? Why did they manage to get 3 goals in the first period? And that's the thing, is the Jets have these games where their first period sucks. Remember that first Vegas game where the Jets were not there? They looked like they were a bunch of 8-year-olds taking on men in Vegas. And then the Jets woke up for the back 40. I was like, cool, thanks guys. I'm glad that it really was the same thing where it's not even the last 40. It was the last 45 where it's just oh, cool. The Jets showed up, but they did not show up at all for the first 15. And that cost them. And Connor Hellebuck kind of messed things up too. He should have made some bigger saves. He's got an excellent expected goals against average, which is, where you want to be. But at the same time, I don't want to see it that high, but the guy's made some spectacular saves. And I just think that the law of averages caught up with him last night. He has once every month, it feels like he's got kind of a stinker of a game, but then he just comes in and he's just yeah, this is it. And honestly, if it was any other year where Ullmark wasn't having this year that he's had. Like he's got like a 23-1-1 record and like a 935 save percentage. And I think it's like a 195 goals a game. It's like any other year, Connor Hellebuck would be your Vezina winner. But unfortunately, Boston's just taking away all the hardware this year, which is unfortunate. But yeah, the Jets are going to get lots of seconds. Lots of second place votes for things in the hardware categories. So yeah, just an unfortunate game. It's hockey. Sometimes you just got to move on. Like the Jets played poorly in the first 18 minutes, I think, and they played well in their last 43 minutes. It happens. You can't win every game. You just went on a 5-game winning streak, and like the Jets look good in that 5-game winning streak. The Vancouver game could have gone. The first Vancouver game could have gone a little bit better, but whatever. A win's a win. 2-1 over Edmonton. Grind it out. I love to see those kinds of wins. And I mean, Edmonton, obviously the better team in that game. Jets destroyed. 3-2 over Calgary. I'm blanking on that game, so you'll have to forgive me. But oh yeah, there's another one where the other team outshot the Jets, but the Jets held it in because the Jets have a fantastic goalie in Connor Hellebuck. So let's not relish on that. The 4-2 win in Tampa, fantastic. You got to see everyone come back and everyone, kicked off the rust. And Nicky Ehlers has been looking good. I think since he got cross-checked by Steven Stamkos, he's kicked off all the rust and he's good to go. Yeah. I was going to ask Sam Brownell on Jets Nation Radio who was going to score more points between Ehlers and Connor. And it's just like, what a silly question. We both know it's going to be Kyle Connor. I can't try to be like, yeah, but it's going to be Nick Ehlers because it's not going to be Nick Ehlers. Nick Ehlers is a fantastic player, but yeah, he's not better than Kyle Connor. One day maybe. And the 7-4 in Vancouver. What a tight game. And then all of a sudden the Jets just walk away with it. And Kyle Connor with the hat trick. That guy's unbelievable. So yeah, the Jets, whatever. A loss is a loss. You got to move on. Not the end of the world. You would like to see better out of Connor Hellebuck. You'd like to see a lot better out of the defense. Fourth line looked amazing. Third line, all right. The Dubois, Kyle Connor, and Nick Ehlers line. I think we got to start messaging other teams about that line, being like, hey, just watch out because these guys are really good, unbelievably good, especially when they're all clicking at the same time. Like in the game against Detroit, when Dubois held on to the puck it felt like a good 45 seconds, just pure Dubois holding on to the puck and getting around guys and getting hit and then hitting them back and still continuing to maintain possession of the puck. And then when he lost it, he immediately goes to get it back. And it just Dubois is so good. I gush about him and he's going to make so much money next year. It's unbelievable. Or if he doesn't make a ton of money, he's going to get paid so much money that it's unreasonable come 2024. And you have to expect that. I don't think he's going to be a Jet come 2024. Fall 2024, I doubt it. And if the Jets aren't, and I don't know. I don't think Chevy's going to trade him. I think he'll let him walk, which is unfortunate. But I mean, we'll see what we get there. But that's what I'm kind of expecting in the future. We got 2 games coming up Friday and Thursday, Friday. So tomorrow and Friday, we got Pittsburgh and we got Buffalo. Buffalo's a sneaky good team this year. They're not unbelievable. You're like, oh wow, look at the Buffalo Sabres. They've got 42 points. They are 6 points back of the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're in panic mode. But even if Buffalo misses, they're putting on entertaining games. Tage Thompson and we got Eric Comrie probably coming up that game as well. You watch for those Buffalo Sabres. I think they're a lot like the Detroit Red Wings, where they're a lot better than they should be standings wise, but they're still just getting this idea of winning under their feet. So it's going to take them a bit, but they'll get there. I'd love to see Buffalo get into the playoffs this year, maybe make some noise, take down the Boston Bruins. Could you imagine? Unbelievable. I would love to see that. So yeah. And then we got Pittsburgh coming up. They're in the last wild card spot, but they need a win. They need a win bad. So I don't know. I think we're probably going to see Connor Hellebuck against You kind of want to put Connor Hellebuck against Eric Comrie if he's the one that ends up playing. Why? Because Eric Comrie's going to play his heart out, and he's going to be mad about it, and he's just going to do his thing. And he's had some good games. Remember how good he was last year? So I think he's going to show up for that and just like take any of that energy that we all were like, Eric Comrie's going to be bad, and turn it into Eric Comrie has I don't want to say it because if it comes true, I'm going to be the one to blame. So Eric Comrie's probably going to have a great game. I'd be putting Connor Hellebuck back in the net. And it's a good time to put him back in the net. He just had a stinker of a game. Connor Hellebuck usually bounces back pretty quick. And then you put Big Save Dave in Pittsburgh and just let that be. I think, again, like Dave Rittich is a scary word for a lot of Jets fans, but I think he's a lot better than we give him credit for. Like, yes, he's got lots of goals against, and he needs to be playing on a regular basis. I think he needs to get traded to a team where he is a 1B guy. And there's not a lot of places in the NHL that can do that for a guy, but I don't know. If he could find a spot where he could be a 1B guy, where he's playing twice a week, we're probably going to see All-Star Rittich again. Like, he played those 2 games in 3 nights or something like that. And I was like, that guy looks pretty good when he's on a regular rotation. So I don't know. Move David Rittich to somewhere that's a little bit more fun and exciting for him, where he gets to play every day. Because I think he can be a starter in the NHL one more time, but maybe not a starter, but a 1B starter. Yeah, I know. I figure Edmonton might be a good landing spot for him. I don't want to take Jack Campbell's contract, but get him off to Edmonton. Get him to start there with Stuart Skinner. And then you can watch David Rittich take down the Calgary Flames on a regular basis. There we go. We figured it all out there, friends. Well, that's it for the Situation Room. Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you again on Sunday. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be chatting with NHL All-Star John Scott. So Tuesday night, that's probably going to drop. We'll see how everything goes. Maybe next Friday, but most likely next Tuesday, because I don't like to sit on things too long. So have yourself a great Wednesday. Peace and grace, friends, and we'll talk to you again soon.